Hello and welcome to Premier League All Access with me, Sam Matterface, this week in the company of talkSPORT's Perry Groves and Jason Cundy. Yes, a former Arsenal winger and a former Chelsea and Crystal Palace defender. Well, sort of. He played 4 games with them, but he did win 3 of them. Here's what's coming up on the show.
I thought that Spurs would be perfect for Man City because of the high line. There's a spirit amongst the Spurs players now. They're buying into Ange Ball. Do you know what I mean? They're playing for their manager.
Let's be honest about it. Manchester City should have won this game. They had enough chances to win this game. The game should have been put to bed.
There's no effort, there's no application. There's a bunch of lazy players there. There's a complacency culture where they don't give a rat's whatever about the badge in the club.
It's about endeavour, hard work, discipline, and how much you want to give it, how much you want to try for your team. Nothing's going to change because you've got the same problems. Yeah, there it is. There is so much wrong at that football club.
What a strong week it has been for Arsenal.
Arsenal, for the first 20-25 minutes yesterday, was back to their fluid best of last season.
I genuinely feel they can win this time. I don't see Heckenbottom surviving this. I don't know where he goes. Right now they're going down.
Our bottom team doesn't win 5-0, no matter who they're playing, ever.
There's not many leagues in the world where a team like Fulham, whose record against Liverpool before today, I think they'd only scored 4 goals in 16 games at Anfield against them, where they will go and give one of the top teams a proper game. That doesn't happen in northern leagues or around Europe. That's why the Premier League is so popular all around the world.
I actually didn't even realise you played for Crystal Palace.
It was a loan for a month. It went quickly.
And well.
Yes. So Ron Nodes was chairman of Palace. Alan Sugar was chairman of Spurs, and they couldn't agree a fee, and that whole thing fell apart. It was terrible.
There you go.
Yeah. Always even wanting more. Eh?
Right, nothing to do with
Always
me.
even wanting more.
So you're a Crystal Palace hero, really. I always associated you with Tottenham, Chelsea and Ipswich, but look, I didn't realise you were so successful when you were at Crystal Palace. You two just got back from Chelsea. I've been down the south coast with Eastleigh. We've all watched the Manchester City game. We just caught up on the Liverpool game as well. Some worldies in that. There's so much to talk about, and it's been a Sunday of absolute goal carnage.
It's just been like golf fest, wasn't it? Like Christmas fest comes easy, it comes early. When we was at Stamford Bridge, and even before the game, you think there's going to be goals in this game because of the way Brighton play, isn't it? Like it was like watching the Boston Celtics against LA Lakers, wasn't it? It was just like basketball from end to end. It was. Then a lot of jeopardy. I don't know what Colin Gallagher's doing. We'll probably talk about that later on.
Yeah.
Being the captain and getting himself sent off, putting his team under pressure. But brilliant game. If you're neutral, Brighton are the team that you would go and watch play because you can see goals.
It's one of these days where if you're a neutral and you'd picked any of the games to watch, you would have had a fantastic time, with maybe the exception of West Ham against Crystal Palace, possibly. That finished 1-1, but there's so much to get into, so many goals to talk about, including Saturday's action as well. So let's get stuck into it. Let's start with Manchester City 3, Tottenham Hotspur 3. It was, as we expected, just a complete fun game. But maybe not as we expected, in that Spurs actually managed to take the lead this time and actually get something out of the game.
Well, I thought it could be 5 or 6 goals, and I just thought with Ange Ball, with Spurs playing the famous high line, is he going to change his philosophy? And he stuck to it. And see, I have a bit of jeopardy for me, really, because obviously I want Spurs to get hammered, really. I mean, you go, actually, no, I'll take a point.
Yeah, you know what I mean? How many hats do you want to wear at the same time?
Exactly.
I'll take that.
Arsenal top of the league. It was a brilliant game though, wasn't it? And Spurs obviously sometimes criticised for being a little bit naive with this high line and this approach. Would you say it paid off today?
Well, when the result comes in, you have to say it does, but I don't know how they can keep doing that. I mean, you can't win the title like that, I don't think. He might have done it in Scotland. I don't think you can win the title like that.
Why?
Because it's... You leave yourself so vulnerable. I think there needs to be an adaptation. And I think that what we're seeing...
We saw that second half, didn't they just slow up a little bit?
They did. Well, City, I felt that City didn't adapt. I felt City felt the game might have been won. And Gary Neville was saying in the commentary, they're taking their foot off the gas, and you could see it. And when they get the second goal, Spurs, all of a sudden City wake up again. But they can't do that either. One thing I'll say about Arsenal right now, they're full pelt the whole time. They feel like they're full pelt. If there is a drop-off, it's because the opposition have the ball. But I felt the City allowed Spurs back into it as much as City really didn't do enough with the ball at times and got Spurs back.
This is not going to be 45 minutes of you telling us how great Arsenal are, and I told you so. Why aren't we talking about Arsenal?
All I'm going to ask you is, where are Man City in the league at the moment? What did I say last week? Where they'd finish? And you went, what, third? And I said to you,
third,
I said, when you've won the treble, it's really difficult to keep that intensity. They're missing John Stones, who goes into midfield and gives them that extra play. And when the teams are now playing against Man City, and they get a feeling, Jason will tell you when you're in a game sometimes, you actually think, we can get back in this game. Man City of last season, they go 1-0 up or 2-1 up, 3, whatever. The game's done and dusted. It's not now. You look at Spurs today, they're behind twice. I said about Chelsea being behind 3 times. When they 1-0 up against Liverpool, Liverpool come back into the game.
We've got to stop having half-time at the Etihad Stadium. I tell you, it is a nightmare because in the second half, it takes so long for people to get back to their seats because of that tunnel club. No, seriously, the atmosphere takes a massive dip, and I think that affects the players.
Well, 7 goals in 2 games they've conceded.
It's ridiculous.
They've only kept 1 clean sheet in the last 7 games in the Premier League.
So defence wins titles.
And if you said about a little bit, how quick is Kyle Walker, right? And you see the Kulusevski's goal, which is a good header.
Yeah.
Brennan Johnson goes on the outside of him. Kyle Walker, I can't remember the last time he got done on the outside. Do you know what I mean? Letting someone get across him. So it's just that little bit where they're giving teams a chance. And as I said before, Jason, it's difficult to keep that, that real intensity when you're playing in games. And I thought that Spurs would be perfect for Man City because of the high line. But even though Spurs conceded 3 goals, there's a spirit amongst the Spurs players now. They're buying into Ange ball. Do you know what I mean? They're playing for their manager. And Heung-min Son, like 3 goals, one wrong end. But then someone needs to be the leader, and he is become their leader.
I understand it, and I think that I think they're at the beginning of a journey rather than the end of a journey, Spurs, and there's a long way to go. And I can see what they're trying to do, and I can see the future being bright for them. I don't think they're there yet. Let's be honest about it. Manchester City should have won this game. They had enough chances to win this game twice. They hit the post twice. I think Alvarez hit the post twice. Haaland's missed a couple of big opportunities as well. The game should have been put to bed before.
How many times have you said this about Man City? I remember the game against Wolves, 1-0 down, get to 1-1. There's only going to be one result. Doesn't happen against Chelsea. Scoring late on, Chelsea get back into it. Exactly the same. There is a fragility about Man City right now.
Where does it come from?
It's hard to tell because it's the same manager, the same players, and the same determination. But maybe there is that lack of what Pez.
I think there's an edge that's not there.
Maybe there is something that Perry's alluded to that can you keep going every single game, every single competition. It's hard graft that. It's hard graft. And to keep doing it at the level you need to. Fair play to Spurs, fair play to Chelsea, fair play to Wolves, because they've had their collar felt and they're starting to drop points
and
now.
Arsenal.
And Arsenal. Fair play because...
Don't forget Arsenal.
Don't forget Arsenal.
They did beat them.
But there are moments in games where you look at the game and in isolation, you look at the clock and say, City should win this, and they haven't, and they keep doing it.
And it's a weird thing in football where anomalies come up, like since Guardiola's been at Man City, Spurs have been his bogey side. I think they beat him 6 times, they conceded 22 goals.
Yeah.
So it's just, football throws stuff up like this. And I think with Spurs fans, they would have gone to the Etihad with a little bit of trepidation, losing like the last 3, and with all the injuries they've got, and they'll come away because they love the way that they play, but they'll see, hold on a minute, we've got a little bit about us at the moment as well. So that's it. I'm not talking about Spurs. I'm done. That's it. I'm finished.
Manchester City 3rd in the Premier League, 30 points.
Oh, they're 3rd, are they? Oh, right.
14 games. Liverpool 2nd, 31 from 14. We will talk about them and the Chelsea game towards the latter half of the show because there's some contentious decisions, but also some brilliant goals to discuss as well. And we'll discuss Arsenal, who are still top of the pile, 33 points from 14. But our next focus is on 6th and 7th, because Saturday night saw Newcastle absolutely thrash Manchester United 1-0. Well, no wonder Alex Cook decided not to do this week's podcast. This is the second time in just over a month that he's dipped out when they've been poor.
Has anybody seen Alex? Go on, has anybody seen him? Go on, you got to do it.
I'll leave it there.
They were dreadful. They were utterly shambolic in this game, and Newcastle probably should have scored 3, 4, 5 goals in the match. It was such a one-sided 1-0 victory.
I don't see why people are surprised. At the end of...
I don't think anyone really is.
No,
we've watched them. The statistics obviously skew it because their recent form suggests that they've been putting wins on the board. But ultimately, anyone who's watched them, even in the midweek game against Galatasaray, knows that they're playing they're playing poorly.
They've got, not playing poorly, there's no effort, there's no application, there's a bunch of lazy players there. And I said at the end of last season, I saw them down at the Vitality against Bournemouth, and Man United won 1-0 and Casemiro scored the winner. But you had players like Bruno Fernandes, like not tracking back, not doing his job defensively. Martial was playing. At that time, I think it was Garnacho was playing in the wide areas. And you've got a player like Garnacho, who is a young player, who doesn't track back, who doesn't actually go with his runners, he doesn't go and close down.
If you're a senior player in that team, either one of you, if you're a senior player in that team, and you're seeing Rashford, who's still a young man, he's 24, 25 years of age, not tracking back and doing the work that you need.
Yeah.
Garnacho doing the same. Anthony's doing the same. What do you two do there? Do you walk into a dressing room and start throwing things around and start causing problems?
But you're senior players, right? You got senior. Bruno Fernandes doesn't do his job off the ball. He's the captain. You look at Galatasaray midweek where he comes out and says, "Oh, we're not doing our jobs." He's the one who gives away 2 fouls, so that Galatasaray can get them like the free kicks. No, Onana throws them in. There's no leadership. This has been going on since Mourinho. Remember when Mourinho said about Luke Shaw that he just does enough, and people thought he was, being too harsh. There's a group of players there. There's a complacency culture where they don't give a rat's whatever about the badge and the club that they're playing for.
I think the worst example I've seen of late was Rashford. I thought Rashford was terrible. And it was almost like he was deliberately not trying. Some players just don't feel or look like
But
they're
that
trying.
doesn't happen, does it?
Well,
Yeah.
I've got to say, look, it looked like it. I thought Rashford. And now you were talking about Garnacho, right? You're looking at Rashford. Garnacho wants to be where Rashford has been, right? So that climbing that ladder at Manchester United. I have to say, I thought Rashford was. I'm trying to choose my words carefully here. I thought he was disgusting.
How good were Livramento and Trippier, right? Yeah. Going forwards.
You mentioned culture.
The culture, because the two fullbacks had no protection whatsoever.
But also,
Dalot on the left and Van Bissaka on the right. Terrible.
The other thing we have to remember about this group of players is that the 11 players that started for Newcastle United on Saturday night were exactly the same 11 players that were run ragged by, worked their socks off and absolutely utilised every single ounce of energy that they had on Tuesday night in the game against PSG. Yet they seemed to be refreshed and well organised and ready to go again on Saturday night.
I thought United would get something out of the game purely on that. I thought United could get something out of the game.
Because Newcastle ran on empty.
Yes.
Yeah.
I felt that the last half an hour of that game, the United might be able to get started. And do you know what? But for that incidental offside from Maguire, who knows? Goals change.
But they wouldn't have deserved it.
No. What I'm saying is, though, I'm not saying they deserved it. What I'm saying is, it's amazing how the rhetoric can change depending on where the goals go in and so on. But you made the point there. Not a bit of it. If you had to look at those two teams, say, who was the one that went and played 90 minutes with 11 men, and then had to dig in, and then you flipped it, you wouldn't have gone that. You would have gone the other way around.
We're talking about forwards, right? If you look at a player like Joe Linton and you look at a player like Almiron, who obviously Newcastle, Almiron works his socks off, whether he's playing on the right or he's on the left. Joe Linton is at the same time. There's not that culture at Manchester. And if you look at Man United, you tell me how many captains. I said before, and I got slaughtered for it, about Bruno Fernandes. I wouldn't have him as captain in my team. When they got beat 7 up at Anfield and he's moaning and groaning, he's like doing his socks like that's your senior player who's supposed to be the leader. There's no leaders at Manchester. And I feel a bit for Ten Hag because he's actually swimming in. This has been going on for 5. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer indulged, although he got decent results, he indulged a group of players and he let them behave how they wanted to because individually they might get them out of a bit of trouble. That's not happening now. You don't have lazy players in top teams.
Okay, so talk to me about the culture then. Who's got to deal with it?
So I just want to go back to something Perry made there, and I don't disagree with him. But who are the leaders and captains in Newcastle in that team on Saturday, other than Trippier?
Lascelles, yep, you'd say.
It's not like they're littered. It's like they've got a young team. Gordon's not. But he plays like one.
But Guimarães.
But Gordon.
Gordon's fantastic. I think we should mention Gordon because he's got the first player in number of years to score 4 goals at home.
You think Almiron's not
in a row.
What it is, this leader thing, and I understand why we talk about it, and we do often. Actually, it's about endeavour, hard work, discipline, and how much you want to give it, how much you want to try for your team. And on the flip side, United, there is nothing there. But it's the endeavour, it's the hard work. The leader thing, yes, I get. But the truth is, you can have, like Rashford should be a leader at United. He should be now. But he's not trying now. There's a lack of that effort.
No,
Rashford should be a captain.
No, but
right?
because his attitude is stinking the place out, right?
Look
at the difference. Anthony Gordon is a brilliant example. Look at the Anthony Gordon at Everton.
Who's in that? Okay, who's in the squad? England squad right now.
No, I'm just talking about Anthony Gordon. Look at Anthony Gordon at Everton, right, where he was decent going forward, but he didn't work very hard for Ten Hag. He goes to Newcastle, and the culture there, and the non-negotiables with Eddie Howe and Tyndall set and the player set is, I don't care if you're a left winger, a right winger, when we're out of possession, you'll get yourself back a goal side, or you go and close down. Anthony Gordon is a brilliant example. You see, and he said it took him a while. No, because the other senior players in the team will dig him out for not doing the right thing, and he wouldn't be there.
It's all about culture, like you're saying.
Exactly.
And you're absolutely right. Everybody at Newcastle was on the same page. Everybody at Manchester United seems to be on different pages, and that's a major issue. But ultimately, someone has to take responsibility for it. And Erik ten Hag looks a little bit like a rabbit in the headlights, because we could all see that goal coming at some point during that game. It was inevitable that at some point it was going to happen. He had 55 minutes prior to it going in to make some sort of change and didn't do it. Why, and how much responsibility does he have?
I think that there's a number of reasons why Newcastle are much better than them, and they wanted it more. Man United have been...
That's the worst thing you can say. They wanted it more.
They did, though.
They did, Pez. But that's the worst you can say.
Pez, they did.
Yeah.
You and I watched the game, and I think there was an inevitability about the way the game was going to go. I think we've got to mention Maguire, by the way. I thought Maguire stood up and done his very best. But there was one stage where I saw Maguire playing right wing. It's like, where's Maguire going? How's he there?
Well, they threw him up front for the last 5 minutes.
Well, that was the old-fashioned back to 70s and 80s. We're just going to go route one. So.
But I feel that Manchester United there's a malaise that's been allowed to develop under that ownership that's been allowed to develop. And when you got players like, Joe Linton, talk to me about Joe Linton. Where was he 6 years ago? He was a left winger playing out, and they brought him in as a centre forward. And now look at him, he failed originally at Newcastle. And now he's a midfielder that's a monster.
He's a hero in the middle of the park there. Can I ask you about Anthony Martial and his, how should we put this, and his cross words with Erik ten Hag?
What, from the touchline and he's shouting him in the middle of the pitch? Basically, can you get your finger out and start running around, right? But he's a typical example.
But what about Martial answering him back and getting a little bit furious as well?
Well, that is Martial thinking, you can't hurt me. You can't.
There's no consequence.
Exactly. I'm on whatever, money, whatever. You ain't going to hurt me. Yeah, I'm not even going to listen to what you're saying. So then Erik ten Hag, remember last year when they got beat by Brentford, 4-0, and he went, you lot haven't run. I'm bringing you in next day. You're going to run, the 13 kilometres, what you should run. And everybody goes, right, I think Ten Hag has let things slip a little bit as well I wouldn't have Anthony Martial in my team playing up front, because straight away you're playing with 9 outfield players and not 10, straight away. And then Marcus, so he's got, Erik ten Hag, I always say to managers, you've got to look in yourself in the mirror now and go, right, I'm doing this my way. I've got to make massive decisions here.
Hasn't he tried, though? Hasn't he tried?
But I think he's let it slip. I think he's let it slide by indulging Marcus Rashford, by indulging Bruno Fernandes, by indulging Martial.
But he's been a disciplinarian with Jadon Sancho. He's been a disciplinarian with Cristiano Ronaldo. Why has he allowed other standards to slip?
The Ronaldo one, he was very clever because he knew that Ronaldo's behaviour, going off at half time, and he just went away, didn't he, and then went down the tunnel. He knew that culture, and I thought, you've done that perfectly.
He's going to stitch himself up.
And yeah, he let himself stitch himself up. The younger players, it's easy to be disciplinarian with the younger players, but then you've got to make a stance. And I think if he gets the sack or he goes, who's going to go in there and change that culture?
Nothing's going to change because you've got the same problems. Yeah, there is. There is so much wrong at that football club. Yeah, and the worst example I thought was against Newcastle. And Newcastle, as we said, they had to play 90 minutes or 90 plus minutes.
They were brilliant. And do you know what? I was with them in Paris.
PSG, they were sensational.
They were absolutely
we know they're
brilliant.
Right?
They were absolutely brilliant. And they're a brilliant team to watch. And it's a journey that you enjoy watching, going on with them. Because
no, I couldn't. Well, why do you want to go on that journey?
Well,
Well, no,
I'm not interested in them at all.
Not
It's
the least,
been
not
I've
the
done
least.
all of their Champions League games, and it's been good fun so far.
Oh,
yeah.
you ain't got a Newcastle scarf as well,
There
have
you
you?
go. Look.
listen,
What culture are you setting?
Listen, I'm just a big fan of Eddie
Do
Howe.
you know what it is? Do you know what it is, right? He knows that his team's got no chance of hearing the Champions League music now. He's like that.
My team as well.
Oh, yeah.
No, mate, he's feathering his own nest. Don't worry about it.
Hey, listen, I just think they've done very well. And I think
he's
Eddie
still
Well,
Howe.
I agree with that. But
And Jason
you can't be
Tyndall.
pleased for them, can you?
I'm pleased though. I've known Eddie for 20 years.
I couldn't care less. He's a nice lad. Who cares?
But it's the culture. He's gone in there with the non-negotiables, same thing.
He's a good coach, isn't he?
Yeah. And
Done brilliant job.
and he talks very well. But the other thing we haven't mentioned.
Where's
Newcastle-
Alex Crook? What? No, oh.
No, yeah. Newcastle recruitment since Eddie Howe's been there has been
Dan
excellent,
Ashworth.
right?
Yeah.
Man United's recruitment for the last 5-6 years has been awful because they go into the characters, not just the ability of the player that they're going to sign.
Manchester United need a manager, I think, that's got the non-negotiables, the philosophy like Eddie Howe. They're not going to get Eddie Howe out of Newcastle. There's no chance that's happening now. They need someone who represents that sort of level of coaching ability, personal sort of skill level that, you know, where you resonate with the younger players, but also know how to handle the big characters. Someone different, I think, needs to go in there. I think the whole thing needs an overhaul. When Jim Radcliffe gets in there, maybe it will start to change. But I think it's like turning the Titanic. It's going to take a very, very long time. Talking of good coaches who set good cultures and have turned things around, should we talk about Gary O'Neill at Wolverhampton? No, Mikel Arteta, who's done well at Arsenal this weekend. What a strong week it has been for Arsenal. Terrific in midweek in the Champions League. And actually, I thought some of the football they played in the first half of the game against Wolverhampton Wanderers was sublime.
I had split loyalties, didn't I, in the game because me had been an ex-Wolves player as well. You know what I mean? So,
Didn't Wolves kick you out when you were like 12 or
yeah, I didn't know whether I wanted Arsenal to win 6 or 7, to be honest. I didn't know which way to go. I got my little red socks on as well. You know, little
Oh, for God's sake.
Arsenal, for the first 20-25 minutes yesterday, was back to their fluid best of last season. Like with Odegaard looked back to his best. I know he got his brilliant goal, which was a fantastic team move. But some of his through balls with the outside of his left foot, where he released Nketiah and Trossard, and they should have had the game dead and buried by that 25 minutes. They were 2-0 up. And then when Wolves get back into it and Cunha scores, because you said about Gary O'Neill, we're big fans of Gary O'Neill.
We are.
Because they went to it and you thought, whoa, this could be 5 or 6. That doesn't happen with a Gary O'Neill team because they still stay in the team shape that he had. You know, he had the 5-3-2, and there was a bit of a threat up front with Hwang Hee-Chang and Cunha. And then when Arsenal missed a few chances, and then Cunha scores a worldie with his left foot, it's Zinchenko's mistake, then it got nervous. It got nervous for that last sort of 10-15 minutes because you think, oh, you know, is this going to be another Fulham? You know, where Fulham get themselves back to 2-2. But Arsenal saw it out. So I think there's more of a steal about this Arsenal team than last season.
Okay, Jason, what's worrying me about all of this is that you too are a convert to the cult of Arteta, aren't you?
Do you know what? For the first time, I was lucky. So I'd done the phone-in with Jamie O'Hara at 5:30 on the Saturday, and I came in to watch the game. So you don't often see all the games. I've got to tell you, for the first half, Arsenal scared the life out of me. I'm thinking for the first time, I genuinely feel they can win this title. For the first time, I genuinely felt...
Come on over, Jace, come on.
No.
Get your red socks on, come on over.
But I genuinely felt that I'm looking at a side that could, because I like Wolves. I love Gary O'Neill. I love the way they play. That is a tough team to do that to. They absolutely battered them, swept them. It was 2, it could have been more. The flip side is a little bit like we saw from City earlier today, where they're winning and they're comfortable. And maybe there's a little bit of complacency that crept in. Wolves are a good side. And actually, in the end, it shouldn't have been like that. No. But we're watching it in the office, and all the Arsenal fans around, you know, they're all screaming and shouting. They're shouting up. But at the last 10 minutes, they're all sitting there going like this. Can't watch it through there because they feel the game should have been over and won, and it wasn't. But they got it over the line, and there's a lot to be said for that.
Gabriel Jesus has taken a bit of criticism last week or so because he actually said himself, I'm not a goal scorer, right? And you think, maybe he shouldn't say as a centre forward, but he was being perfectly honest because he's a 1 in 3.5, 1 in 4. And playing.
Well, he hasn't got any this season, has he?
No, but without him,
in the Premier League.
Champions League, he's still right. But without him, trust me, Bukayo Saka isn't as effective. Martinelli isn't effective because they played 3 centre-halves yesterday, Wolves. Jesus' movement, he comes deep, he engages them. And if you look at the 2 goals, even though Saka, he was the pass before the assist, where he's got a great layoff, wasn't he, for Zinchenko, where he flicks one round the corner into Tomiyasu for Saka's goal. So he brings more, and he brings the best out of those players. Those players that I mentioned, they're flourishing. I said Odegaard was back to nearly what he was last year. Trossard looked really good in the Granit Xhaka sort of position. So their fluidity, and then what they're doing now is, I think last year, as Jay said, that nervousness around the Emirates, I think last year they could have drawn that 2-2. But I think there is this now sort of game management that's coming in.
That's the best I've seen Arsenal this season. I don't know if you've seen as much as Arsenal.
They've been clunky this season. They haven't played. But
I thought they were brilliant against PSV in the first home game in the Champions League. I thought they were absolute top-notch that game.
League games.
In the league,
I think that's as good as I've seen Arsenal. I'm trying to think of other games where they've been sensational. They were sensational.
The other City one was tactical and very functional.
Yeah, tactical and very clever, I thought.
And when they went 1-0 up, there wasn't nervousness because City didn't respond. We were talking about before.
Yeah.
But the other thing as well is Declan Rice I've seen him all this season. He hasn't been below an 8. Every game I've seen him play.
No, it's terrific.
But what he did yesterday, he's got this sort of sixth sense where he dropped deeper because they went 3-4-3 in the end. Gary Neal put 3 up front. He put Sarabia on, and Declan Rice just went, right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually go probably 10 yards deeper. And I said before, he's like this Springer Spaniel sniffer dog at like Heathrow Airport, where he just sniffs out trouble. He just goes and all of a sudden he gets a little toe in or a little foot in, or he gets a little interception.
That's someone who spends far too much time going on holiday. Burnley 5, Sheffield United 0. How bad was Sheffield United in this game? They were.
Again, I was lucky enough to watch the goal. Say lucky enough, but fortunate enough to see the demise. Burnley didn't have to be brilliant. They were good. Sheffield United, well, I mean, what's he doing at Burnley? You look around, you think he could have got a straight red for the first one.
Correct.
Right? Could have done.
Yeah.
Possibly should have
This is when he goes up and elbows his opponent.
Do you know what it was like?
Both the elbows were on O'Shea,
So Perry and I played in 80s, 90s,
when that was okay.
But he played like one of those centre forwards. The centre forward leads with that arm. You can't do that now.
No.
Other than that, I don't see Heckenbottom surviving this. I don't know where he goes. Right now they're going down. They're going down.
Well,
and to be beaten against one of your rivals that you look at, you think, we've got to get something out of this game, and it gives us a little bit of a fighting chance. To be battered the way they were, it was 5, it was so comfortable, 10 men, there's a lot wrong.
It's the biggest margin of victory for a team starting the day at the bottom of the table since 1997, when Sheffield Wednesday beat Bolton by 5-0. This a bottom team doesn't win 5-0, no matter who they're playing, ever. This is a quirk.
No one had that on their
no fight. There was no fight from Sheffield United. I saw him the week before.
That's happened a couple of times, though, hasn't
Bournemouth,
it?
when I was doing the game at Bramall Lane, Sheffield United made Bournemouth look like Barcelona. Yeah. Honestly, they got nowhere near it, and that happened.
Newcastle got 8 goals against them.
Yeah,
so this happening. This is not something new. This is becoming habitual.
They've had pulled down regularly.
Do you know what was interesting? Paul Heckingbottom's interview afterwards, where he said, "I've let players in that dressing room know in no uncertain terms what I thought of them." Basically, he's told them that again they haven't tried and they haven't put. If you're going to go down, like Luton, we said before, we thought they'd have the best chance of because they're togetherness and they will fight for Rob Edwards to the last. Right, that's not happening with those Sheffield United. If you're lacking a bit of talent, fans will still go with you if you give it everything you got and you leave everything out there. They're not doing that.
Well, I mean, it's about being switched on, isn't it, right from the very beginning? You don't concede a goal in 15 seconds, do you?
Oh, I mean, where do you go from there? So you're going away from home, a team that's struggling at home. They could have broken the record, I believe.
Yeah, if they hadn't won, yeah.
It had in all 4 divisions.
Yeah, lost 7
right. So that would mean, and you go in 15 seconds, you win them down. The writing, right there after 15 seconds, the result was rubber stamped.
Yeah, Vincent Kompany, I think, suggesting that his team were a little bit more aggressive than they had been.
They mixed it up a bit better.
They went better, yeah.
Exactly.
When you've got Jay Rodriguez up top, you can do that.
Do you know what? Maybe he's learning. Maybe there is this. I've seen a lot of Burnley, and they are a naive side when it comes to playing the way they want to play, which is fine. It's admirable. But actually, the truth is, it don't get you results. I wonder whether he might just start to feel actually I need to be a little bit more pragmatic. And certain times, can I go defensively at times or go longer?
Well, James Trafford went long, more than what he had all season.
They got the first goal from that, the second goal from that.
Goal as well.
You know, and if it reaps rewards, it might give him a little bit of food for thought.
What's great afterwards is Jay Rodriguez not knowing that he was the only player in Premier League history to score
twice inside 15
seconds. He's like, did I? Is that right?
Is that right?
I'd have known that straight away, wouldn't you? It's not as if he scores 25 a season, is it, to be fair?
It is always out of order when you get sent off for an indisciplined challenge, isn't it? I mean, that really hurts, doesn't it? I mean, I can remember once, but I took my mum to one game, just one game ever, one game.
Did anybody get sent off?
It was 0-0 in a cup game
Tight
between
game?
Chelsea and Southampton, really tight.
Could've gone either way.
Someone got sent off after 15 minutes.
Why are you doing that to me? What? Do you know what?
I didn't get sent off to Southampton.
He got sent off.
He
got sent off. It was
Would you leave one?
It was the Rumbelows Cup. That's how long ago it was.
So did you leave one on someone? Did you?
Alan Shearer dived outside the box, straight red.
Yeah. Sort of dive, sort of quite hard
I got wrong
contact.
side. It was a hoof up forward.
Was it?
Yeah. I got
lack of concentration.
Might have been.
We'll stay concentrated because we've got a few more games to look at, including Chelsea against Brighton, which was the 5-goal thriller on Sunday. Right, well, you talked about silly red cards. Let's talk about Conor Gallagher's red card. Perry?
His first tackle, he just leaves a little bit on Buonanotte, and you go, okay. And Conor Gallagher was actually playing well, Jace, wasn't he, in that 10 position? He was like getting it into his feet.
It's been his best position so far this season.
Brighton were the best team for the first 10 minutes, so pass it without being a goal threat. Yeah. And then as Billy Gilmore gets away from him, the last thing you do is you think, what I'm going to do is don't even try and win the ball. Just let him run away from you. And it's from sort of behind to sideways, and then he's sizing down first, then he slides and gets the ball. And Craig Pawson, he ain't got any no sort of choice but to send him off. And then he put his team, as a captain, you put your team bang under pressure. And he's lucky they've dug him out of it.
Did Chelsea deal with it quite well, though, really?
Yeah. Okay, just going back to that briefly. I've done the comment, Perry and I are both there, and I've done the comment for Chelsea TV, and I made the point at the time that the week before, Reece James got a second yellow, and it was something for petty, right? And I made the point at the time, Conor Gallagher is an all-action player. He has got this about his game, and what he had the armband. I said at the time, he needs to make sure that he does not allow his game
emotions,
the way that he plays the game. But I think maybe he will learn that maybe there are parts of his game. He's young. He is that player. He will go and try and win balls. He's all action. He does it, and I hope because actually he was actually playing well. But I wonder whether this might be one of those moments, the David Beckham moment against Simeone, where he learns this is an education for him.
Player.
Yes, he let his team down. Yes, he'll be gutted. Chelsea won, so it's so nothing's lost. But I wonder, wearing the armband and coming through the youth, I wonder whether this might be one of those moments in his career that he remembers this for the rest of his days. So yes, you're right. I just hope and pray that he's going to look back and say, could have done better.
Chelsea got off to the perfect start, 2 corners causing problems for Brighton.
Well, that's what Conor Gallagher took both corners, then from right-hand side, and then I think it's Badiashile who just helps it back in with his left foot, and Fernandes is unmarked and like 5 yards out, gets his header in. Then another corner as well, just headed back in it by Jackson.
He drilled them. The first 2 corners hit the near post, and then he drilled them.
To the far post.
And he went both come from far post, and maybe there was something in the defensive way that Brighton set up that they felt that they could get the ball back across goal, and both were similar, weren't they?
Yeah, it was a good header from Jackson to head it back across, and then Levi Colwill gets it, and then he half celebrated, and I'm like, no mate, go for it. I know you did play a few games for Brighton, but he ran over and he went, oh, better calm myself down.
Yeah, but it wasn't given straight away, was it?
Yeah.
You talk after it was given.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and you think, no, go mad.
Just celebrate.
Exactly. Yeah. You don't score many. I used to go mad if scoring 5-a-side. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like knee slides and everything.
Obviously, Chelsea needed to get back to winning ways after what was quite a poor performance away at Newcastle last Saturday, and very heavily criticised by their manager as a result of that performance. But they had to survive a late onslaught from Brighton. Brighton got it to 3-2. There was a penalty claim as well late on in the game where the ball does hit Levi Colwill in the face. But Brighton at the time think that this is going to be given.
It was an absolute shambles. So Craig Pawson, I'm not speaking on behalf of Perry, he can dive in and interject anytime he feels. the ball comes across, and Colwell's got his arms up like that, and it hits him, and he stumbles. Next thing, a whistle goes, ball goes out for a corner. Next thing, a whistle goes, and the crowd goes quiet. And there's all people milling about, and I'm like, is it a penalty? And there was so much chatter around, I'm like, I don't know what's been given. Next thing, it's a penalty. Brighton fans are cheering. And I'm looking at the replay, I'm going, hit him on the head. So Craig Pawson then goes over to the VAR. So he's given the penalty, right? So he's given the penalty. So it says VAR check, but what people don't know in the stadium is a VAR check to say it is a penalty or it's not a penalty.
Yeah.
Right? So we're all sitting there waiting.
So in the stadium, no one knows that there's a penalty being given.
Next thing, Craig Pawson does this, walks over, does that. Brighton fans are cheering, thinking that he's
going to get a penalty.
They're going to get a penalty. But the truth is,
They've already got one.
They've already got one. He's cancelled it. And then Chelsea fans cheer.
It was a weird thing because he gave the penalty sort of half-heartedly, didn't he? When the referee normally demonstrative, he just went.
No one knew.
Like no one saw, right? And then you're looking at it, and when he goes over, you see the replays, and it hits Levi Colwill in the face.
It's obvious,
right?
Yeah.
But my point is, Craig Pawson has guessed because obviously there's an arm that's gone up. But the assistant referee is 10 yards away.
Good point.
He's facing. He's absolutely facing it. So why in the mic does he go, Craig, it's hit him in the face, mate? But I'm not a big fan of VAR, right? That's the perfect example of VAR working because Jared Gillett said, mate, go over there, he's hit him in the face. And they got the one right for Chelsea's penalty for James Milner on Mudryk. Because Craig Pawson didn't give it at first.
Legs get tangled.
He's 1v1. Brilliant move from Chelsea, wasn't it? From Sanchez.
To and by the way, down at 10 minutes at the time.
Exactly. Then out to Jackson. Yeah. And obviously Mudryk's 1v1. And at first it looks like that James Milner's been very clever and leaned across Mudryk. But what he's done is he's actually got him with his arm and then their legs tangled. And it wasn't given. So then it goes to VAR. So there's actually VAR for a change in a game, a 2 for 2.
Yeah, and we didn't talk about this in the game between Manchester City and Tottenham, but we will mention it now because there was another situation in that game, and sort of these big decisions do change games. Right to mention that these ones were correct in the Chelsea game, but Simon Hooper in the Manchester City Tottenham game pulled back Jack Grealish when he could have played the advantage right at the very end of the game when it was 3-3. And Manchester City will feel, and there was a massive melee afterwards, Pep Guardiola's going absolutely bonkers about it, because they feel as if Haaland, after being tubbed back, got up off the floor, played the ball through to him, the advantage should have been played, and Manchester City should have won the game.
Well, Grealish is through, right? So Hooper got it wrong, right? And I think it's the only mistake I can think of he made in the game. Yes, he got the wrong call, and they're there to make the right calls and right decisions. I feel for City because Grealish has got 1v1 and chances are 80% of the time he puts the ball in the back of the net. The truth is though, they conceded 3 goals at home, Spurs.
Yeah, okay.
So don't be knocking on my door saying, here's the reason we didn't win. You know what.
By the way, Erling Haaland did miss like a couple of sets.
He did, absolutely. But you can understand why City weren't happy with it. And that obviously, as the other results came in through the day, opened the door for Liverpool to go up into second position. They beat Fulham by 4-3. But when the 90-minute mark goes, it's 3-2 to Fulham. And then all of a sudden, it changes.
It's never over anymore, is it?
It's never over anymore.
The game's
it goes
never
on
over.
forever and ever and ever. Because I think there's so much buffer in terms of, it used to be 2 or 3 minutes at the end of a game. Now it's 8
never
or
over.
9. No. It's almost like another section.
It's like extra time.
It's like a final section of the game where it gives you one extra go at it.
But like, everybody's tired. So the concentration levels get less and less. So you're going to... And I think it's brilliant. I think it's brilliant us having that added time at the end of the games. I want my team to win. So I just want my team to win. I'm not worried about total. But as a neutral, you want the jeopardy. Don't you? You want that jeopardy.
We saw it at Stamford Bridge.
Yeah, we said 10 minutes. It was at the end of the game,
well,
and then it was like
16. 14.
Yeah, and then can Brighton get themselves back into it? But all the goals, they were worldies.
Yeah. No, first of all, no team has ever won more points from losing positions than Liverpool in this Premier League season. I mean, they've been absolutely terrific. 15 points they've taken from losing positions.
They can't keep doing that
already this season. The McAllister goal is out of this world. The free kick from Trent is out of this world, even though it does hit Bernd Leno on the back. It's still an amazing free kick. Wataru Endo's goal is a super hit. For your first Premier League goal, it's amazing. And then to come up with the poise and the accuracy to score the winner in stoppage time, Trent Alexander-Arnold.
Yeah.
I mean, it's another great cracking hit. Isn't
Like Pez said, we're lucky. We're dealing with the best league in the world, and now we're getting these minutes. The jeopardy and the drama is all for everyone to see.
And also, there's not many leagues in the world where a team like Fulham, whose record against Liverpool before today, I think they'd only scored 4 goals in 16 games at Anfield against them, where they will go and give one of the top teams a proper game. That doesn't happen in all the leagues around Europe. That's why the Premier League's so popular all around the world, because there would have been a lot. What was that? I said there was 24 goals today?
Oh, the goals today were insane. I mean, we
crazy.
were watching them the 2 o'clock kickoffs that you and I were at. Every 7 minutes, another goal's gone in.
What are you doing this week? You sports
Sports
barring?
bar?
Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
Where are you at?
We've got Premier League games.
How long are you going to go with the Ted Lasso? Like, I thought November was over. What
You doing November?
Did Movember, and it got a little bit of love on social media as I was about to shave it off. So I thought, I'll just keep it going for a little while.
Rock the Ted Lasso.
Keep it going. The reason I asked what you were doing this week was not to ask whether or not my tash was going to stick around till the end of the week, but of course it's double week of match games. So we've got midweek games to focus on, and the weekend as well.
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, haven't we?
So first of all, Aston Villa are going to have a huge say in what happens, because they've won every home game so far this season. They drew today with Bournemouth away from home.
Are they 14
Ollie
on the trot at home altogether?
Yeah, absolutely outstanding. But they've now got Manchester City and Arsenal in back-to-back games.
Okay.
So that's going to be a cracking affair. Arsenal off to Luton in midweek. How do you feel about that?
That is the beauty of the Premier League, going to Kenilworth Road, like just over 10,000, old-fashioned football ground, and you know that Luton are going to test you physically. You know what you're going to come up against.
You've got Luton
I'm
now.
looking at like Saliba and Gabriel. They're going to probably have more duels than what they've had the whole season. And if you're not at it physically and psychologically against Luton, they will steamroll it. They'll roll you over. So that's going to be.
Have a go.
It's going to be beauty against the beast, and it's going to be brilliant.
Brighton are at home to Brentford. Burnley have got to go to Wolves. Fulham take on Nottingham Forest. Sheffield United face Liverpool. So Liverpool going to Bramall Lane. They'll fancy themselves to get a result there. Crystal Palace take on Bournemouth. Aston Villa, Man City I've already mentioned, and Manchester United, Chelsea, that's the game that I'm going to. And then Thursday night, Everton, Newcastle, and Tottenham against West Ham. Who's going to be top by the end of Thursday night, Jason?
Give me the games again.
Arsenal going away to Luton.
Arsenal win that.
Liverpool going to Sheffield United.
Liverpool win that.
Manchester City go to Aston Villa.
I fancy Villa.
So do you think that by the time we get to Thursday night, Liverpool and Arsenal, more significantly, because they'll be top if they beat Luton, will have established a bigger gap over Pep Guardiola's team?
Potentially, yeah. Villa's the toughest place right now to go in Premier League football, right? There's no team right now that's got a better home record.
No.
Right? So it's the toughest place to go. But then don't forget, Arsenal go there next week. There's
Saturday,
This is the reason why we.
Yeah, love the Premier League. I think Villa and Man City are the two teams scored the most goals, haven't they, in the Premier League this year? Be 0-0, wouldn't it?
I doubt it very much. I'm going to Manchester United against Chelsea on Wednesday night. Now, Manchester United have not taken a point off of a top half team this season. And Chelsea have, for the whole season, been 11th or lower until today. And now they've gone into the top 10. They're 10th. So what does that mean for Manchester United?
What does it mean for Chelsea? Top last time for Chelsea.
Do you know what?
It's a major achievement, mate.
Do you know
to get into the top half, this is absolutely
I think I'm right
cracking
in
stuff.
saying that Chelsea have taken more points in the Premier League of Manchester United than any other team.
Yeah, I think that is true, yeah.
And
it's definitely up there, because Chelsea always take points off. Well, used to. Even historically, even when you were playing, occasionally they would.
0-0.
And you've got one team that actually runs around for the manager, and the other team that doesn't run around for the manager. Can you imagine if Chelsea go 1-0 up, what the atmosphere is going to be like at Old Trafford?
Well, it's all right, we'll give them about 17 other chances.
Yes, that will happen as well.
Yeah.
But Sancho was all right today. Taking crosses at the right time.
No, he did. He set the goal up. Yeah, he still makes my butt clench when he balls at his feet. But You know, that horrible feeling. You know, that horrible,
Is that a coaching? Is that a coaching term?
No, anyone listening to this knows exactly the feeling I'm talking about.
Yeah.
You should sum up to you. Yeah.
Yeah, don't worry, we've got a week of butt-clenching moments coming your way on talkSPORT. We're around the grounds with Adrian Durham Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday night, keeping you up to date with everything that happens in the Premier League. We've got live commentary on Saturday, because if they do beat Sheffield United away from home, or an Arsenal beat Luton, it might well be that Liverpool can go top when we bring you Crystal Palace against Liverpool on Saturday lunchtime. Of course, we'll preview all the action for you before then. Join us Friday morning when we will do that for you. Thanks for watching.